A soft, ragged breath echoed through the empty alley, mingling with the smell of smoke and the damp, musty air of a cold autumn night, as the flickering streetlight cast a dim glow over a motionless body on the sidewalk. Ethan Ward, 48 years old, the most powerful Mafia boss in Chicago, froze his heart, pounding violently, each beat seeming to synchronize with the weak, labored breath of the woman lying there. He had witnessed blood violence and betrayal in his world, but this scene was different. A young police officer, Detective Sarah Miller, 28 years old, her uniform torn and blooded eyes dim, yet flickering with fear and determination, struggled between life and death. Ethan felt a shiver of electricity run down his spine, a silent yet intense fear. If he walked away, she would die in the darkness, and he would question whether any humanity remained in him. His legs were stiff, part of him, wanting to retreat, part held back by those fragile eyes that still trusted in survival. Every shallow breath, every slight movement of Sarah deepened. His pain intensified the urgent drive surging within him, stirring memories of a vow he had long upheld never to get involved with law enforcement, never let ties to the law threaten his empire. Yet now he realized that power did not permit him to turn his back on the person before him. He drew a deep breath, his eyes scanning the dark alley, listening to the wind whistling through the cracks, the metal doors rattling, feeling the oppressive solitude. The image of Sarah, her body soaked in blood like a tattered puppet in the shadows, struck painful memories of his own family, of his sister lost to apathy and corruption, unleashing a wave of fury and sorrow. His eyes flared with determination, fingers clenched, every muscle tensed. He forgot fatigue pressures from battles with rival gangs, internal betrayals leaving only one mission to save her. Ethan stepped back slightly, breathing heavily in rhythm with his pounding heart, watching Sarah weakly open her eyes, a flicker of fear crossing as she recognized the face beside her was Chicago's most violent kingpin. 1 second, 2 seconds. Then their eyes met, a silence stretching long yet within it, an entire universe of emotion. Sarah's despair, Ethan's internal struggle, the helplessness in the face of the world's violence. Ethan reached for his phone, fingers trembling, intending to call for help, then stopped, realizing even a single call could leave a trace, endangering both his empire and the person he sought to protect. He lowered the phone, tilting his body, carefully scanning every dark corner, eyes, sharp and resolute muscles coiled ready for any contingency. He gently knelt beside her, placing his hand on the gash along her side, applying just enough pressure to stop the bleeding, never taking his eyes off her face. She groaned softly, waves of pain ripping through her body. Yet in her eyes lingered a fragile glimmer of hope, as if silently pleading for a miracle. Ethan listened, heart-hammering, feeling as if the world held its breath with him. He asked, voice low and hoarse, "Who did this to you?" Sarah struggled to speak, each word barely escaping her lips. "The team, my own team, they wanted to silence me." Her words hit Ethan like a punch to the chest, igniting a furious blaze, part from cruelty, part from painful memories of his sister, abandoned. He decided no retreat remained. Sarah would live at any cost. He lifted her effortlessly, her body light, as a feather blood soaking into his black coat, the metallic scent sharpening his senses. Step by step, he carried her out of the alley, feeling her weak pulse still alive, like a fragile melody awakening in him. Courage, awareness, and long-buried humanity. On the deserted street, the yellow light reflected off the wet pavement, their shadows stretching long, a mixture of darkness and hope, of despair and determination. Every step Ethan took etched a promise he would protect her and expose the truth. Within him surged ultimate rage, deep sorrow, and an unwavering resolve to save a life, seek justice, and turn this darkness into a place where light could pierce through. Sarah, though pained and exhausted, sensed the strength radiating from his side, a fragile hope she could cling to. The empty street, the whistling cold wind. Yet in that moment, Ethan and Sarah became symbols of courage, of standing when the world turns away, of compassion and the hidden strength within humanity, proving that sometimes the most underestimated individuals can alter the fate of a life, and that hope endures even amidst blood and darkness. Ethan Ward moved quickly through the empty streets, his hands firmly supporting the frail, bloodied body of Sarah Miller, the metallic, pungent scent mingling with their rapid breaths and erratic heartbeats. Each step he took pressed into the cold asphalt, like a reminder that time was relentless, that if he faltered for even a second, she would be gone forever. His eyes scanned the dimly lit signs, long shadows stretching across the brick walls, while his mind raced through countless scenarios, each a mixture of power and risk, life and death. Sarah's body was heavy, her lips trembling as faint sounds escaped pain contorting her face. Yet her eyes remained locked on Ethan, a fragile trust shimmering, as if silently pleading for a miracle. And Ethan felt her heartbeat almost merge with his, a strange empathy bridging two seemingly opposite worlds, the ruler of darkness and the protector of the law. He turned into a narrow side alley, where the street light flickered weakly, and silence reigned, no witnesses, no cameras, every second, a chance to save or lose her. In that moment, memories of his sister Tanya, 19 dead from an overdose, ignored by the police, and the corrupt men still roaming free, surged upon him, layering the weight of justice unmet onto his shoulders. He could not allow Sarah to share that fate. Approaching an old warehouse, Ethan pushed open the rusty iron door, dim light spilling out and illuminating her body, the bruises and bloodstains on her uniform starkly visible. Inside, Ethan's former doctor, Dr. Alan Freeman, 60 years old, silver-haired, calm-faced but sharp-eyed, had prepared his instruments, a faint smile flickering across his experienced features. He's early everything. Needs to be ready. Ethan laid Sarah on the surgical table, blood soaking his black coat, the metallic scent choking his lungs, yet his eyes never left her face, voice deep, warm, and sharp. She will live. There is no other choice. Dr. Freeman nodded, hands moving to prepare IV lines, monitors medical tools, each motion precise, yet swift every second, a race against death. Ethan stood beside him, fists clenched, recalling each moment Sarah had closed her eyes, her final whispered plea, "Help me," echoing painfully, reminding him that justice, life, and humanity must take precedence. While Dr. Freeman focused, Ethan surveyed the room, neon lights reflecting off the worn walls, feeling the heavy silence, each breath a small victory. Every sound was vivid, the hiss of the needles, Sarah's labored breathing, the monitor's beeps, the wind whistling through the cracks, forming a tense symphony where life and determination intertwined. When her wounds were cleaned, Ethan pressed his hand to hers, enough pressure to stop the bleeding, looking into eyes, gradually opening eyes glimmering with fear, pain and a hint of hope, revealing the fragile yet tenacious fight for life. She shook her head weakly. I can't believe Ethan offered a faint, commanding smile. Live. We will do what is right. A long silence followed, yet in that moment, an unusual bond formed a connection, transcending status and role, the lawless protector, standing over the life of one who serves the law. In the makeshift medical room, every preparatory motion for the emergency surgery matched the rhythm of his pulse, the white light illuminating bruises and dried blood on Sarah's face, revealing every wound, every torment, and Ethan sensing clearly the struggle of life itself. Sweat dripped down his brow, heart pounding like war drums, feelings of anxiety, fury, hope, and fear blending together. Memories of past injustice, of bribed officers causing his sister's premature death, surged, and now he saw a chance to restore some measure of justice, at least for Sarah. He signaled Dr. Freeman to begin every passing second, a critical chance to save her. Sarah groaned, moving weakly eyes opening slightly, looking at Ethan with understanding, recognizing that the man beside her was not an enemy, but a savior in the shadows. Ethan saw her blood, slow her pulse, stabilize slightly, feeling as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. Yet he knew this was only the beginning. After saving her, they would have to confront the traitors and the corruption embedded deep within the police force. In that moment, Ethan drew a deep breath, sensing the metallic tang of blood, the harsh glare of the medical lights. Yet his heart was calmer than ever, his will ironclad, determined to protect life, pursue justice, and place humanity above all else, knowing that tonight, the journey of saving a life and exposing crime had only just begun. Sarah Miller awoke a sharp pain stabbing through her chest, making her shiver, yet her eyes remained sharp-locked on Ethan Ward, who stood beside the table, his face a mix of severity and anxiety. Her heart pounded with each beat as she realized her life had just been pulled back from the brink by the very man she had considered an enemy her entire life, her gaze flickering with a mixture of shock and fear, trying to whisper, "Why did you save me?" Ethan did not answer. Immediately, his eyes sweeping across the makeshift room filled with medical equipment, IV lines and monitors blinking with her fragile life. Then he exhaled a heavy breath, his husky, distinctive voice cutting through the tension. "Because you shouldn't die like this, just like my sister Tanya did," and no one cared the weight in his words, allowing Sarah to feel the years of pain and the abandoned loss lodged deep in his soul, now witnessed by her. Ethan stepped closer, leaning down to place his hand over the wound on her side, each movement forceful, yet careful fingers pressing just enough to stem the bleeding, while his eyes monitored her reactions, every second a test of her will to survive. Sarah blinked, noticing droplets of blood on Ethan's fingers, realizing her life rested entirely in the hands of someone she had never trusted, a mixture of fear and vague hope creeping into her mind. Ethan stepped back slightly, his sharp gaze scanning the room, realizing that whatever came next depended on their cooperation, but was also a game of power, saving a life, exacting revenge, and exposing the truth. Sarah whispered, weak but resolute, "They're my colleagues. They did this to silence me." Ethan nodded, fury rising his muscles, taut memories of Tanya, his sister who died tragically due to indifference and corruption, surging part of the past, igniting within him. Yet he knew he had to remain calm, to channel his rage into strength to protect her. He pulled out his phone, contacting Marcus, his long-time loyal operative, ordering all measures to secure Sarah's safe transport, shielding her from any threat from the corrupt officers. Every movement tracked, every gesture from her. Each slight motion, a signal of life, a bridge of hope for them to confront the darkness together. Sarah opened her eyes, gaze focused, struggling to piece together the events leading to this nightmare. Every memory of attack and betrayal, every colleague laughing as she bled, sparking a flash of anger, yet simultaneously recognizing the decisiveness, determination, and latent leadership in Ethan, a side she had never seen in a criminal. Ethan approached, whispering, "You have to live. Once you're well, we will uncover who is behind all this, and justice will be served." Sarah nodded slightly, heart still racing, but her mind slowly steadied, realizing that her survival and Ethan's power were now intertwined, forming an unbreakable alliance in the shadows of the city. He guided her out of the makeshift surgical room, each step down the dark hallway, lit by dim light on the tiles, each footfall a second of battle between life and death, Sarah leaning on him, feeling the strength radiate the presence of protection. Ethan paused, surveying the warehouse, eyes scanning every corner, noting the absence of cameras and witnesses. Only darkness and faint sounds, wind-whistling monitors, beeping, Sarah's weak breaths forming a tense symphony where every beat was a trial. Ethan leaned down once more, asking, "Who did this to you?" Sarah, gasping for breath, voice trembling, replied, "Rogers and his team. They wanted to kill me because I knew too much." Ethan clenched his jaw, a surge of fierce anger rising, yet he restrained it, focusing on strategy. Save her, protect her, and reveal the truth. He instructed Marcus to prepare every contingency to transport Sarah safely. Every detail, meticulously calculated vehicle route, security communication, defensive measures, all to avoid any risk. On the empty streets, Ethan held Sarah tightly, her blood soaking his coat, the metallic stench filling the air. Yet he felt her heartbeat stabilize each slight movement, a sign of life, a miracle, a reason to keep moving forward, stepping into the darkness but toward the light of justice. Sarah, though in pain and exhausted, looked directly at Ethan, her eyes reflecting the realization that he had not only saved her life, but provided the chance to expose the traitors. Make them pay and ensure justice, a surge of belief rising within her that sometimes, even from darkness, hope could emerge strong enough to alter destiny, enough to fight against all conspiracies and crimes. Ethan and Sarah, a Mafia boss and a police officer, moved through the deserted street where dense shadows still tried to conceal the truth. Yet now they had become an alliance, both strong and fragile, both powerful and human, ready to face every enemy, every conspiracy, and the fate awaiting them, knowing tonight was only the beginning of a long but meaningful battle where life and death, justice and courage intertwined every breath, every step, every glance, carrying the weight of determination, hope, and the human spirit standing against the darkness. Ethan Ward moved swiftly through the cold, empty streets of Chicago, carrying Sarah Miller, her frail body stained with blood, the metallic scent surrounding them, mixing with their rapid breaths and erratic heartbeats. Each step he took echoed on the wet pavement, a reminder that time was relentless, that even a second of delay could steal her fragile life. Every footfall was a vow, every beat of his heart a promise to protect her from any danger. His eyes flashing with a mix of fury and anxiety, memories of his sister Tanya, who had died tragically abandoned by corrupt and indifferent people, surging anew as he felt Sarah moaning in his arms. Yet he restrained his anger, focusing solely on getting her to safety. The warehouse, deep within the old industrial district, with its rusty metal doors and peeling brick walls, illuminated by the faint glow of neon lights, was prepared for this moment. Every medical tool monitor and IV line ready under the control of Dr. Alan Freeman, 60 years old, hands, deft eyes, calm yet meticulous, a stern face filled with experience. Ethan laid Sarah on the table, the stench of blood filling the air, yet his heart remained steadier than ever, his will ironclad. He bent down, placing his hand over her wound muscles, tense breathing measured, stopping the bleeding to keep her alive. Sarah groaned softly, eyes opening slightly, fear in her gaze, slowly mixing with a fragile trust in Ethan, a belief that even a criminal could be her savior. And she felt the strength radiating from the man beside her, enough to protect her, enough to create hope in the darkness. Ethan stepped back, scanning the room, recognizing that although it was makeshift, it was the only safe place. No cameras, no witnesses where he could act freely while running through 100 scenarios in his mind. Enemies could appear at any moment, corrupt. Officers would search for her, and he had to be ready for every contingency, every evacuation plan, every possible risk. He looked at Sarah, voice low and hoarse. "Stay alive, Sarah. Once you're well, we'll expose them all and the traitors will pay." And in that moment, Sarah felt the unwavering strength and determination in Ethan, a feeling both frightening and reassuring, both disorienting and hopeful, her heart beat, quickening each pulse proof that life still fought to endure. Ethan turned to Marcus, pointing outside, giving orders to prepare the vehicle security communications weapons, every detail meticulously planned, each second a chance to protect her every movement, preparing for a safe but risky extraction. Sarah, though in pain, met Ethan's gaze with a sharp, resolute look, realizing her life now rested in his hands, yet sensing a hope she had never felt before, that together they would confront the darkness, the traitors who betrayed her, the corruption seeping through the police force. Ethan bent closer, whispering encouragement, breathing steady hands still on her wound, eyes sweeping every corner, every shadow ready for all contingencies, traitorous colleagues, corrupt officers, hidden enemies. Sarah groaned softly, her breathing still weak but pulse more stable, eyes flashing determination, realizing she was no longer alone, that strength did not come solely from weapons or authority, but from those willing to stand by her, to protect life and justice. Ethan noted every reaction, every slight movement each second, a testament to life, to hope to resolve. And he understood clearly that every decision from this point forward had to be fast, precise, and absolute. That every step, every choice was the line between life and death, and that they had to act as one to survive this night. In the warehouse, monitors beeped rhythmically. IV lines hissed Sarah's weak breathing, mingled with the wind whistling through cracks, forming a tense symphony where life and determination intertwined. Ethan leaned down, looking at Sarah, eyes full of authority, yet filled with humanity. "You have to live. There is no other choice. We will expose everything. Justice will be done." Sarah closed her eyes, feeling the strength from Ethan, a protections, both commanding and safe, her heart pounding, a feeling of fear mixed with trust, knowing she would no longer be a victim, that she would survive to see the truth revealed, and that the real battle had only just begun where the Mafia and the police, the lawless and the law enforcers, had now become allies, facing conspiracies and darkness, where justice and life merged, every breath, every motion, every glance, charged with strength, determination, and hope, so that from this cold, dark night, the light of justice would rise. Ethan Ward stood before the iron window of the warehouse, the streetlights casting long, flickering shadows across the damp pavement, his heart racing. each breath echoing in the stillness while Sarah Miller lay on the medical bed, pale yet eyes sharp, a gaze, equal parts fear and fierce determination, sensing the full protection of Ethan, a feeling of safety mixed with tension, as if every second was a fragile bridge between life and death. Ethan placed his hand over hers, pressure, gentle but enough to stop the bleeding from her open wound, his voice low, hoarse, yet resolute. "You have to get well. Everything else will be dealt with afterward." Sarah nodded slightly, each weak movement, still carrying a fragile trust in the man beside her. Someone she once considered an enemy, now her only ally in the darkness enveloping the city. Ethan turned to Marcus, giving orders to prepare security measures, the vehicle, the route, every detail perfect, because any lapse could cost them their lives, knowing that traitorous colleagues were still lying in wait, the conspiracy far from over. Every movement had to be absolutely safe. Sarah, despite the pain, felt her heartbeat align with Ethan's, a strange empathy forming as if in this moment of life and death, two completely different people had become one, fighting together for survival and justice, and in her eyes flashed determination to live to fight and to reveal the truth. Ethan drew a deep breath, sensing the metallic tang of blood, the harsh glare of the neon lights, yet his mind was calm, heart steeled. Will unshakable, knowing every second mattered. He scanned the room, ensuring no cameras, no witnesses, only darkness and silence, preparing for the worst-case scenarios, ready to face any enemy. Sarah opened her eyes, looking directly at Ethan, her gaze flickering with trust, both fragile and intense, realizing her life was in his hands, yet feeling a surge of hope that together they would confront the darkness and the traitors. Ethan bent closer, voice hoarse. "You will survive. And once you are well, we will discover who is behind. All of this justice will be served." Sarah nodded, a sense of fear mixed with safety spreading through her. Her heart pounding, each beat proof that life still fought to endure. Ethan carried her out of the makeshift medical room, each step through the dark hallway, neon light reflecting on bruises and blood stains. Each step a mark of determination, each breath a small miracle. Sarah leaned on him, feeling the strength radiate the presence of protection, realizing that power does not only come from weapons or social authority, but from those willing to stand by her to protect life and justice. Ethan listened to every breath, every weak movement, noting each reaction as a sign of life, a reason to keep moving, stepping into darkness, yet toward the light of justice. He signaled Marcus to ready the vehicle, the security team communications weapons, every detail meticulously planned, preparing for a safe yet risky extraction, while in his mind every scenario repeated, traitorous colleagues, corrupt officers, ambushes all needing perfect execution. Sarah, though exhausted and in pain, looked at Ethan, sensing strength in him, a protection, both commanding and humane, her heart pounding. Fear mixed with hope, realizing she would no longer be a victim, that she would survive to witness the truth revealed. Ethan bent down, whispering encouragement, holding her hand, eyes sweeping every corner, preparing for any contingency, traitorous colleagues, corrupt police, hidden enemies. Every gesture, every breath, every glance carried the weight of life and justice. Ethan felt the strength flowing from Sarah's survival, her determination to fight, knowing that the next step, once she recovered, would be the moment to expose the conspiracy, punish the betrayers, and protect the innocent. In the makeshift warehouse filled with equipment, Ethan sensed every heartbeat, every weak breath of Sarah, every drop of blood from her wound. Yet his heart remained steady, his will unyielding, knowing her life and justice rested in his hands, that tonight they had become an alliance, both fragile and strong, both human and powerful, ready to face the darkness and their enemies, where every decision carried life or death, where every second, every breath, every movement held the power to determine fate, and where the light of justice would rise from the coldest darkness. Ethan gripped Sarah's hand tighter, stepping toward the warehouse door, heart pounding, feeling life, fighting to endure, knowing that a single small mistake, a single second of delay could destroy everything, yet understanding the true power comes from courage, from standing to protect life and justice, and from the fragile yet intense trust between two people, now allies ready to face the darkness, the conspiracy, and the fate waiting ahead. Ethan Ward stood silently in the makeshift medical room, the harsh white light illuminating his weary yet determined face, sweat trickling down his forehead, a reminder that time was slipping by, that every passing second was a chance for an enemy to strike and destroy everything. Sarah Miller lay fragile on the bed, eyes dim but sharp, watching Ethan's every movement, a mix of fear and safety washing over her heart, racing each beat, a testament to life, fighting on to fragile yet resilient hope, to unwavering determination. Ethan brushed the sweat from his hair, eyes scanning the blinking monitors and medical equipment, prepared for any scenario, his mind operating like a strategic machine, calculating every movement, every confrontation, each witness, every shadow and sound, aware that a single mistake could endanger Sarah's life. He turned to Marcus, voice low and firm. "Prepare every contingency. Don't allow any surprises. Protect her control, all exits, every street around, and track every move of Roger's team. They must not reach her." Marcus nodded, eyes bright with resolve, understanding that this was no ordinary mission, but one of life and death, of justice, a chance to expose the full conspiracy. Sarah, though in pain, felt Ethan's strength radiate, realizing she was no longer alone, that her life was supported by someone she had never trusted, and that fragile trust began to grow stronger than ever. Ethan opened his laptop, reviewing the data on the corrupt officers Sarah had gathered before being betrayed, every name, transaction photograph and recording carefully encrypted, and began devising a plan, expose each player, ensure Sarah's safety. Every detail, meticulously calculated from escape routes to vehicles to contingency plans if any risk arose. Sarah listened as he spoke, feeling her heart beat slow slightly, tension easing, realizing she was in the right hands, that justice could be achieved if they coordinated perfectly. And for the first time after days of betrayal, she felt a glimmer of hope. Ethan guided Marcus to prepare all tools, direct communication with loyal staff, a decoy ambulance to conceal the movement surveillance equipment and contingency plans in case Roger's team attacked unexpectedly. He repeated every detail, every step, ensuring perfection, no margin for error. Meanwhile, Sarah gradually regained strength eyes, following Ethan's every action, sensing the calm authority radiating from him. Realizing that power does not come only from weapons or Mafia influence, but from determination, intelligence, and courage. Ethan stood by the window, eyes sweeping the old industrial district, every shadow, every alley, every step of any stranger, logged in his mind, knowing that tonight would determine Sarah's survival and the exposure of the full conspiracy. He sat at the table flipping through files, seeing every detail of corrupt dealings, every bribe, every traitor, every recording Sarah had collected, feeling anger surge, yet restraining it, turning rage into strategy, into power, into a plan to save her and exact justice on those who sowed crime. Sarah, still feeling the dull ache, sensed her pulse stabilizing life, returning eyes flashing determination, trust in Ethan, in the plan, in justice, realizing that their coordination, a Mafia boss and a police officer, created extraordinary strength enough to counter the conspiracy and the corrupt. Ethan rose, walking around the room, each step measured, yet commanding eyes, scanning every corner, whispering to Marcus, "Prepare the vehicle. We will move her safely. Step by step, no risk. And when we arrive, every plot will be exposed. Be ready for any situation." Marcus nodded, expression serious understanding. This was no ordinary task, but a matter of life and death, of justice, a chance to correct past wrongs. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling her heartbeat slow, realizing she was in the right place with the right person, and for the first time in days of betrayal, she felt hope flicker, a feeling of fear mixed with safety, of weakness and strength, knowing that once she recovered, they would expose the conspiracy, punish the traitors, and restore justice. Ethan checked all medical equipment, every IV line monitor light fully prepared for the move, every detail calculated from timing to route, anticipating any sudden appearance of a Rogers team, everything perfected to protect Sarah, while in his mind the plan unfolded, step by step, save her, protect evidence, expose the conspiracy, ensuring that not a single small mistake occurred. Sarah opened her eyes, looking at Ethan, feeling safety, spreading trust, blossoming, each breath syncing with his heartbeat, forming a strange empathy, as if two completely opposite people had merged into one, fighting for life and justice. Both knowing that tonight this unexpected alliance would become an unstoppable force, where life and death, justice and courage intertwined, and from this cold, dark night, the light of truth would rise, every breath, every movement, every glance carrying strength, determination and hope, turning the darkness into the beginning of a long yet meaningful battle. Ethan Ward carried Sarah Miller through the empty streets, each step echoing on the wet asphalt, the scent of freshly fallen rain lingering in the air. Cold wind whistling through cracks, the dim yellow glow of streetlights falling on the blood-stained uniform of Sarah, each drop a reminder of the danger she had survived. Her breathing gradually steadied, each fragile movement syncing with Ethan's pounding heartbeat, forming a tense yet determined rhythm. His eyes scanned every alley, every shadow, every corner that could hide Rogers' team and their accomplices, noting every sound, every small movement, every passing vehicle, each a potential threat. Yet he did not hesitate, did not falter, heart-taut muscles brimming with strength, each breath a promise to protect her to the end. Sarah, despite pain and exhaustion, felt Ethan's strength radiate, realizing she was no longer alone, that in his hands she had a chance to survive her eyes, flashing a fragile yet enduring trust, this strange alliance between Mafia and police, now an invisible tether against darkness and corruption. Ethan held her hand tightly, sensing every heartbeat, every weak movement, knowing that a single mistake could doom both her and the plan. He signaled Marcus and the loyal security team to follow every vehicle, every route, every contingency, carefully planned, each step and heartbeat accounted for, from alleys and side streets to main roads, where unexpected witnesses or corrupt officers could lie in wait. Ethan monitored Sarah's every reaction, every breath in perfect sync, creating a life-preserving alliance. Sarah opened her eyes, looking at Ethan, fear mixing with trust, realizing that her survival depended on this man, and that this unusual partnership was their opportunity to expose the conspiracy, punish the traitors, and protect the innocent. Ethan bent closer, whispering encouragement, hands still on her wound eyes, sweeping the area, ensuring no enemy could appear unexpectedly. The footsteps of the security team echoed small sounds from alleys, the creak of metal doors, the glide of passing vehicles, all merging into the tense rhythm of their pursuit through the darkness. Ethan controlled every situation, predicting each reaction and movement, each second, critical, every step, strategic, every glance, exchanged between him and Sarah, carrying unspoken understanding, extraordinary strength and determination, and the belief that they would survive this night. Sarah, still feeling the lingering pain, sensed her heartbeat stabilize each breath, a sign of life, each weak movement proof that she still had a chance, eyes flashing with determination, realizing they were on the path to making a difference, that justice would be served and the traitors would pay. Ethan guided her through the empty streets, eyes scanning every dark corner, each action precise, keeping her body safe, avoiding security camera lights, calculating escape routes, all to ensure they would reach the safe haven. The security team followed closely, each step, each vigilant glance, aware that a single mistake could ruin the entire plan. Ethan breathed deeply, sensing the tang of blood and the damp city air, knowing that every passing second was a chance to survive every movement of Sarah, a proof of fragile yet resilient life. Every heartbeat, a bridge linking hope and power, forging an extraordinary alliance between Mafia and police, between the lawless and the enforcer of justice. When they reached the final gate leading into the temporary but safe shelter, Ethan checked every corner, every exit, eyes sharp, muscles tense, every breath and movement synchronized with Sarah's heartbeat, knowing that a single lapse could collapse everything. Sarah, looking at Ethan, felt her pulse stabilize, life surging, and in that moment, her eyes were no longer filled with fear, but with determination, a strong glimmer of hope that they would together expose the conspiracy, punish the corrupt, and restore justice. Ethan opened the door light from inside, falling on their faces, each step a vow of life, justice, and courage. They entered the refuge temporary but fully equipped, and in that instant, Ethan looked at Sarah, eyes full of resolve, voice whispering, "We will not stop until justice is done, until every traitor pays." Sarah, though weary and in pain, felt the power in those words, knowing they had entered an unbreakable alliance where life and death, justice and courage merged, ready to face every plot, every darkness and every enemy lurking, so that from this cold, dark night, the light of truth would rise strong and unshakable. Ethan Ward stood beside Sarah Miller in the safe house, the harsh white light from the neon lamps illuminating every bruise on her body, the metallic tang of blood still lingering. Yet her pulse had begun to stabilize, her eyes flashing alertness and determination, feeling the strength radiating from Ethan, the man she had once considered an enemy, now her only ally, and she knew her life was no longer abandoned. Ethan opened his laptop, lines of data appearing on the screen, evidence Sarah had collected before being betrayed, photos, recordings, bribery transactions, lists of corrupt officers, all carefully encrypted and stored across multiple drives, each detail, each piece of evidence, a key to exposing the entire conspiracy. Ethan began planning step-by-step, scenario by scenario, calculating every route, every street, every possible reaction, aware that a single misstep could collapse everything. Sarah's heartbeat synced with his like a tense rhythm, fragile yet strong fear interwoven with hope. She stared at the screen, recalling all the information, feeling both anger and fear, but also a growing belief that they could succeed, that the traitors would pay. Ethan leaned closer, voice low and husky. "Once you're well, we begin. Every corrupt officer will be unmasked, every plot exposed. But first, we must prepare every step. Every detail must be perfect." Sarah inhaled deeply, her eyes flashing determination, realizing that true strength comes not only from weapons or power, but from resolve, intelligence, and courage working in harmony. Ethan turned to Marcus, emphasizing every detail. Control all entrances, monitor every alley, every witness, every camera, prepare the vehicle, the protection, the communications, the weapons. Everything must be flawless, ready for any contingencies, for any enemy appearing, because Roger's team and their accomplices would never relent, and even a single second of delay could cost Sarah her life. Sarah looked at Ethan, sensing her heartbeat align with his, a strange empathy forming as if they had become one unit between Mafia and police, where life, justice, and courage intertwined, and she knew they would survive, and the truth would be revealed. Ethan pressed his hand over hers, gentle, but enough to stop the bleeding eyes scanning the room, preparing for any situation, each second, vital each breath, a miracle each movement, a testament to determination, knowing that if they worked in perfect sync, no one could stop them every step, every detail meticulously prepared. Ethan rose, moving around the room, eyes sharp, muscles taut each motion, displaying authority and focus, voice low. Marcus double-check. Everything from the routes, vehicles, communications to protection, all must be ready. No mistakes are allowed because a single second of delay could cause the plan to fail. Marcus nodded, face serious understanding that this was no ordinary mission, but one of life and death, of justice, a chance to punish the traitors and protect the innocent. Sarah opened her eyes, looking at Ethan, feeling the strength radiate from him, realizing she would no longer be a victim, that she would survive to witness the truth revealed. And for the first time, after days of betrayal, she felt a strong flicker of hope, as if life and justice were rising from the darkness. Ethan checked all medical equipment, V-lines, monitors fully prepared for their movement, every detail calculated from timing and routes to the potential sudden appearance of Roger's team, all to protect Sarah. And in his mind, the plan unfolded step by step. Save her, protect the evidence, expose the conspiracy, ensuring not a single mistake occurred. Sarah, feeling lingering pain, watched Ethan, sensing her heartbeat, stabilize life, returning eyes flashing with determination, realizing they were on the path to making a difference, that justice would be done, and the traitors would pay. Ethan leaned closer, whispering encouragement, holding her hand, eyes scanning every corner, preparing for any contingency. Traitorous colleagues, corrupt officers, hidden enemies, all to be handled perfectly. In that moment, Sarah felt every breath, every movement, every glance from Ethan, realizing that true power comes not only from authority or weapons, but from resolve, intelligence, and courage, working together, forming an extraordinary alliance, both fragile and strong, both human and commanding, ready to face darkness and enemies. And from this cold, dark night, the light of justice would rise every breath, every movement, every glance, carrying the power to shape fate, turning this unexpected alliance into an unstoppable force, where life, justice, and courage merged, ready to expose the entire conspiracy and punish the traitors, beginning a tense and relentless chain of events that would shake the entire city. Ethan Ward carried Sarah Miller through the empty streets, each step echoing on the wet asphalt, the dim street lights reflecting off the bloodstains on her uniform, the metallic scent mingling with the cold autumn air. Her breathing, though rapid, had begun to stabilize, a sign of life that drove Ethan to move faster. His eyes scanned every shadow, every alley, every faint sound, instantly recognizing any sign of danger, knowing that Roger's team and their accomplices could be lying in wait at any moment, and that every second counted. Sarah's heartbeat synced with his, forming a tense rhythm that strangely brought a sense of calm amidst the darkness, as if in that shadowed night there were only the two of them and their shared will to survive. Ethan signaled Marcus and the loyal security team to follow each member, alert eyes scanning every direction, ready to respond to any threat, each footstep, each breath calculated, prepared for any situation. Sarah, despite her pain, felt Ethan's strength radiate, realizing she was no longer alone, that her life was being safeguarded by a man she had once considered an enemy, her eyes flashing determination, a mix of fear and hope, knowing they would survive, and that the truth would be revealed. Ethan carried her down a narrow street, the pale yellow glow of the street lights reflecting on the wet cobblestones, their shadows stretching and flickering each step, a strategy each breath, a bridge between life and death. In his mind, Ethan ran through countless plans, alternate routes, potential ambushes by Roger's team, unexpected scenarios, all meticulously prepared. Marcus, walking alongside, emphasized every detail. Control every entrance, every camera, every alley. No sign of activity should be missed. The vehicles are ready. Protection is ready. Communications open. Ethan nodded, eyes never leaving Sarah, aware that every passing second was critical, every step, every breath, every movement vital for survival. Sarah opened her eyes, looking around, feeling her heartbeat stabilize, life returning her eyes, flashing with determination, realizing they had become an extraordinary alliance, the lawless and the law enforcer confronting darkness and betrayal together, knowing that justice could be achieved if they moved in perfect harmony. Ethan guided her to the final gate before leaving the old district light from the street lamps falling on their faces, each step a testament to their resolve, each breath a promise, knowing that once they reached the safe house, the next phase of the plan would begin, confronting the enemy, gathering evidence, and exposing the conspiracy. Along the way, Ethan silently calculated every scenario, every second, every shadow, every sound, eyes scanning the streets, recognizing any abnormality, knowing that a single misstep could ruin the entire plan. Sarah leaned on him, sensing her heartbeat align with his fear, giving way to determination, trust rising, realizing they would expose the truth together and punish the corrupt, that tonight they were creating power from their own survival and resolve. Ethan ordered Marcus to prepare all transportation vehicles, security communications, escape routes, contingency plans in case Roger's team appeared, all to be flawless, for any lapse could cost Sarah her life. Sarah looked at Ethan, eyes sharp, feeling protected, realizing that true strength did not come solely from weapons or Mafia power, but from determination, intelligence, and courage combined, forming an extraordinary alliance, capable of facing darkness, conspiracies, and the enemies lying in wait. Ethan checked the communications equipment, monitoring every movement outside, every suspicious sign, knowing that the next phase, once Sarah recovered, would be a direct confrontation with Roger's team, exposing the entire conspiracy, gathering evidence, punishing the traitors, restoring justice. And from this cold, dark night, the light of truth would rise strong and unshakable. Sarah feeling her lingering pain, but sensing her heartbeat stabilizing and life returning, eyes flashing determination, knew they would survive. And for the first time, after days of betrayal, she felt hope surge, realizing that together they would expose the conspiracy, punish the corrupt, and restore justice, stepping into the phase of confronting the enemy, where life, justice, and courage merged. And from that moment, every decision, every breath, every movement carried the power to determine fate, preparing for an unprecedented confrontation. Ethan Ward and Sarah Miller stood silently in the shadows of an old warehouse, the dim light reflecting off the peeling brick walls, the soft drip of water echoing through the space, blending with their steady but tense breathing, creating an atmosphere thick with both life and death. Ethan carefully checked every door, every exit, every hidden corner, noting even the smallest sound that could signal the arrival of Roger's team, the traitors who had turned on Sarah, aware that every passing second was a test of her survival. Sarah lay on the chair, eyes half open, gaze sharp, yet filled with determination, feeling the strength radiating from Ethan, their heartbeats syncing in a strange harmony. Two forces once opposed, Mafia and police, now united, preparing together for a decisive night. Ethan looked at Sarah, voice low but commanding. We have to execute every step perfectly. No mistakes. Everything must be flawless, because even a single moment of error could collapse the entire plan and put you in danger. Sarah nodded slightly, every weak movement carrying resolve, understanding that her life now depended entirely on Ethan, and realizing that trusting him was the only path to survival and to punishing the betrayers. Ethan signaled Marcus and the loyal security team, ensuring every vehicle, every communication device, every weapon was checked thoroughly, every movement, every scenario planned in detail, from entrances and alleys surrounding the warehouse to alternate routes in case of ambush, all aimed at protecting Sarah, gathering evidence, exposing the conspiracy, and punishing the corrupt. Sarah, though still in pain, felt her heartbeat stabilize life, returning her eyes flashing determination, knowing they would survive, standing at the threshold of the truth, where every action could change fate, where justice and courage merged. Ethan reviewed all communications equipment, eyes sharp, noting every shadow, every subtle movement, every suspicious sound, reminding himself that any mistake could cost Sarah her life and destroy the plan. He bent down, placing his hand over hers each second. A promise. Each breath a bridge between life and death. His eyes filled with unwavering resolve to save her, protect justice, and expose the entire conspiracy. Sarah looked at Ethan, feeling the strength radiate, realizing they were no longer alone, that in his hands she had a chance to survive, and that together they would face the darkness, the traitors, the corruption within the police force. Her eyes flashing a fragile yet intense trust, knowing they would survive, and that when all was said and done, justice would be served. Ethan scanned the security team, emphasizing, "We move step-by-step control. Every exit monitor, every point be ready for any situation, because even a single mistake could ruin the plan." Marcus nodded, muscles tense, breath steady but alert, understanding that they were engaged in a life-or-death mission, where every second, every step, every movement mattered, and that they would face the most dangerous, corrupt adversaries. Sarah took a deep breath, feeling her heartbeat align with Ethan's anxiety, giving way to determination, her eyes flashing alertness, knowing they would expose the entire conspiracy, punish the betrayers, and that tonight would decide the fate not only of herself, but also of the innocent who had been harmed by Roger's team. Ethan checked every piece of equipment, each monitor, each communication device, every detail calculated to ensure Sarah could be moved safely, step by step, second by second, all prepared for confronting the enemy and exposing the truth. Every breath, every movement, every glance bore the weight of strength, determination, and life, transforming this unexpected alliance into an unbreakable force where Mafia and police, the lawless and the law enforcer, stood together in the darkness, ready to confront the conspiracies and enemies lying in wait. And from this cold, dark night, the light of truth would rise strong and unshakable, ushering in an unprecedented confrontation where justice, life, and courage merged. And Ethan knew that every decision, every breath, every action would determine the outcome of this night. The story of Ethan Ward and Sarah Miller is not merely a sequence of dramatic events, but a vivid testament to profound principles of human behavior, power, and courage. From the perspective of an expert in leadership and social psychology, we see that power is not measured solely by status or physical strength, but also by the ability to recognize human value, to act for what is right, and to remain steadfast under pressure. Ethan, a mafia boss who had lived in the shadows of violence and corruption, chose to place the lives and safety of others above his personal interests, demonstrating that courage can sometimes emerge from the most unexpected places. Sarah, the betrayed police officer, exemplifies the strength of intellect, resilience, and determination, showing that even in the most extreme adversity, a person can maintain dignity and fight for the truth. The collaboration between these two seemingly opposing individuals created an extraordinary alliance, reminding us that justice and humanity do not belong to one side, but to those willing to act and stand up for what is right. This story also delivers a profound message. Sometimes those you consider enemies can become your saviors, and timely trust and decisive action can change the course of events. It serves as a reminder never to judge others by appearances, titles, or current circumstances, because courageous action and steadfastness are what ultimately determine the outcome. If the journey of Ethan and Sarah resonates with you, like the video to spread the message of courage and humanity. Subscribe to the channel to not miss future deeply inspiring stories, and comment the phrase courage as a reminder that human value and inner strength often emerge in the most challenging moments, where life and justice stand side by side, and where the actions of a single individual can change the world around them.